Have you ever watched a horror film and found yourself asking a really unsettling question? Is the monster actually real, or is it all in the character's head? Well, today we're diving deep into a chilling corner of cinema that lives and breathes that very question. We're talking about the world of Hindi psychological and supernatural horror.
So let's just start right there with the big one. This question. This is the engine that drives the entire genre. It's the central mystery that filmmakers use to hook us, to keep us guessing, and to keep us glued to the absolute edge of our seats.
You see, this is a genre that goes way beyond simple jump scares. It's a really unique type of horror that gets its power from a fascinating collision, the moment when our own personal, internal demons slam right into the ancient spirits of folklore. So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll define what makes this niche so special. Then we'll explore its two main ingredients, the fear that comes from within and the fear that comes from beyond. After that, we'll see how they mix together, and finally, we'll figure out why this combination is just so incredibly effective.
All right, let's kick things off by getting on the same page. What exactly makes this slice of the horror pie so unique?
The key word here is blend. This isn't just a ghost story, and it's not just a psychological drama. No, it's a hybrid. It's where a character's inner world, all their trauma, their paranoia, gets physically tangled up with external threats that are pulled straight from myths and folklore.
So let's dig into that first pillar, the fear within. This is all about the war that's being waged inside a character's own mind. You know, in pure psychological horror, the most terrifying place you can possibly be is inside the protagonist's head. The fear isn't coming from some monster hiding under the bed. It comes from the chilling possibility that the mind itself is what's broken. And filmmakers have a whole toolkit to create this feeling. They use ambiguity, right? So you're never quite sure what's real and what isn't. They give us unreliable narrators, so we can't even trust what we're seeing. It all builds this creeping dread as we watch someone's mind slowly, terrifyingly come apart. Okay, now for the other side of that coin. Let's talk about the fear beyond. This is where all those old stories, all that folklore, starts to claw its way into our world. In this case, the threat is absolutely real, and it exists outside of our main character. It's a ghost, a curse, a demon, something that just shatters the rules of our reality, something you can't explain away with science. So, compared to all that ambiguity we just talked about, things here are way more concrete. The threat is undeniably external, often tied to some ancient myth or curse. You have a clear villain, a ghost or a demon, and the horror comes from watching it break all the rules we thought we knew. Okay, let's put them right next to each other to make it crystal clear. With psychological horror, the fear is internal, it's ambiguous, and the question is this even real? But with supernatural horror, the fear is external, it is certain, and the question shifts from, is it real, to, oh my gosh, how do we stop it? All right, so we've got these two powerful, very different kinds of fear. Now we get to the really interesting part, where shadows meet. This is where the true genius of the genre really shines. So here it is, the formula, the secret sauce. The stories often follow this brilliant three-step process. First, you meet a character who's dealing with some deep personal trauma. Second, that trauma starts to manifest as what looks like a supernatural event. And finally, this is the key. The film deliberately blows that line, leaving you to wonder, is this a ghost, or is this just a mind completely breaking down? It really comes down to this idea that the ghosts are often metaphors for trauma. Our internal struggles can literally become external monsters. So are they actual spirits, or are they just the physical shape of a character's pain? The terrifying power of the genre is that the answer might just be both. Which, of course, brings us to our final and maybe most important question. Why does this genre hit so hard? Why does it resonate so deeply with us? What's the secret? And the answer really lies in this incredible connection. The genre taps into these deep-seated cultural beliefs about spirits and curses, stories that many people grew up hearing. And then it masterfully connects those ancient fears to the very modern, very personal anxieties we all deal with: trauma, guilt, and the terror of losing control of our own minds. When you boil it down, its impact comes from a few key things. It uses the supernatural as a metaphor to talk about tough subjects we might otherwise avoid. It makes us question our own reality. And it takes that ancient folklore and makes it feel intensely, uncomfortably personal. And that is what creates a fear that doesn't just end when the credits roll. It lingers. And that right there is the absolute heart of the horror.
It's this one terrifying, deeply unsettling idea. The line between your own mind and the monster has completely vanished. You're just left in the dark, unable to tell the difference between the demon inside you and the one scratching at your door.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought, a question this genre forces us all to ask ourselves. What's truly more terrifying? The ghost that you can actually see in the room, or the darkness inside your own head that you can never, ever escape?